As Trump and his team continue to threaten the Iranian regime, the country is drawing a new roadmap that can escalate tensions in the Hormuz Strait. Iran's latest warning may trouble the economies across the world. It has warned of halting all oil exports from the Gulf and treat any country's support for the US as an act of war. This latest threat is an answer to Trump's cabinet as it goes forward with its economic D-Day plan against Tehran. Washington has replaced the diplomacy language with threats of economic warfare. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent's message to Tehran is loud and clear. The United States is preparing to sever every economic lifeline, keeping the Iranian state afloat. After Donald Trump, he has sounded the bugle of an economic D-Day. The United States' goal isn't just to add more names to the already exhausting sanctions registry. Team Trump is eyeing complete financial isolation. Washington is warning banks, shipping registries, front companies, and international trading partners worldwide. Trade with Iran, and you will lose access to the U.S. financial systems. The White House has framed it as the end game. Tehran's response did not come in soft diplomatic pushback. The head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council drew an immediate red line. Iran has clarified that it will ensure not a single barrel of oil leaves the Persian Gulf if Washington moves forward with its economic war plan. And then came the broader threat. For the US's Middle East allies also, Tehran has set boundaries. Iran will treat any country that supports or cooperates with these US sanctions as participating in an act of war. So, the threat is not just limited to the US president and his team. It puts every buyer, every shipping hub, and every neighbor in the Gulf on notice.
If he wants to take certain actions, our response will be an equivalent earthquake-like retaliation. First, we tell all neighboring countries and other countries around the world not to enter into an economic war alongside the United States. Any country that partners in creating economic restrictions against us will be considered an enemy. Of course, first, we will negotiate with them. We will hold a meeting and say, step aside, separate yourselves from the US. But if they do not comply, we will hit the interests of that country.
To understand why markets are holding their breath, look at the map. Look at the Strait of Hormuz. At its narrowest point, this waterway is barely 21 miles wide. This narrow corridor passes roughly 1/5 of the world's petroleum supply every single day. Iran sits on its northern side. Tehran is aware of its geographical advantage. It knows that when it threatens this passage, the entire global economy feels the heat. The Iranian lawmakers are already pushing draft measures to levy mandatory service fees on commercial vessels passing through the strait. If vessels refuse to pay or violate their maritime rules, there would be a risk of detention, heavy fines, or outright seizure. Traffic through the strait is already crawling. Vessels' insurance premiums are climbing. Captains are uncertain, waiting with their ships if they should pass the strait or not. You might be thinking that the situation must have improved a little in the Hormuz Strait, as it has been over 5 months of consistent exchange of fire between the US and Iran. But that's not true. On August 14th, after over 160 days of continuous fighting, the traffic in the important strait appeared to grind to a total standstill. Also, the United States hinted that it could maintain a naval blockade of Iran indefinitely. Seafarers are tense. Countries are exploring new options, new sea routes. Trade across the world has been affected. The US Central Command and the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps frequently post about their attacks and counterattacks in the Strait of Hormuz. Missiles, tanks, drones, diplomatic talks dominate the headlines. The real shockwaves land far from the war rooms. They land on ordinary kitchen tables. The Iranian rial has plummeted to historic lows. The price of food, basic medicines, and imported essentials changes almost daily. For years, families across Iran have lived through cycles of sanctions, hyperinflation, and rising costs. Small business owners don't know what their inventory will cost in the future. Washington argues that targeting economic lifelines forces governments to change course. But Tehran seems like it is already fighting for survival.
We believe that effective deterrence is built not through aggression, but by imposing unbearable costs on the aggressor and ensuring a decisive response that prevents its recurrence. We have applied this concept in this war.
Behind the escalating rhetoric, the phones are still ringing. Oman's foreign minister will travel to Tehran for emergency talks centered on shipping security in the Strait of Hormuz. Regional defense leaders, including delegations from Pakistan, are holding urgent consultations. The leaders across the Middle East understand what is at stake. The diplomatic effort right now isn't about solving every dispute. It's about building guardrails and security and safety measures. Because no side seems to be in the mood to just finish what is going on since February 28th. Washington has set its financial offensive in motion, determined to close every door. Tehran has warned that closing those doors will shut down the world's most vital energy corridor. Sanctions are often considered clean alternatives to military action. But when economic measures reach maximum pressure, the lines between economic conflict and direct military confrontation begin to blur. The world is watching the Strait of Hormuz. And in the days ahead, we will see whether diplomacy can find an off-ramp, or if both sides are prepared to test each other's limits.